Poke the Bear is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 275, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. And we're presented by Game Time. Go use the promo code CLNS to get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. I am Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Tough night Tuesday night. Bruins got absolutely crushed in a game that really could have been used as a bounce back. I said this to you on Bruins Beat on Monday, that, you know, the 2 wins from the weekend, then you'd play the Leafs, maybe get a win there. You got Calgary and Ottawa later this week. A good chance to sort of build some momentum. Not at all. Big ol' step back. 4-0 loss. The fourth goal was an empty netter, which... and I don't fault Judd Surratt for this.
Yeah.
Judd Surratt was like, "Oh, there's a delayed penalty." And then the Leafs pick up the puck, and I'm like, "That's what? Wait, they're not blowing the whistle." And then you see a 6th Bruin come into the fray, and they shoot in the open net, and it's like, "Oh wait, they were pulling the goalie with 4 minutes left." Another step back where you feel like the Bruins take 1 step back or step forward, 2 steps back. It just not a good night on Tuesday.
Yeah, frustrating, right? As you said, a lot, to be encouraged by with those wins over the Flyers and the Kraken, 2 teams that aren't really gangbusters, right? But, a win's a win in the NHL, especially when you're kind of been treading water like the Bruins have to start the year. And yeah, like that game on Tuesday, it felt like the same kind of script we've been reading over time and time again this year, right? Whether it's way too many penalties, I think 7 total power play opportunities for Toronto. The PK once again really labored in this one, gave up 3 power play goals to a Toronto team that entered 31st in the NHL in power play, without Austin Matthews, by the way, didn't even play in this one. And then you look at, the Bruins' own power play can't get anything rolling, 0 for 6 there. And then at 5-on-5 play, and after the game, Jim Montgomery mentions that he felt encouraged that they were building their game, and 5-on-5 they were stronger, which, I think they controlled the overall puck possession. I think Bruins had a 36-33 edge in shot attempts at 5-on-5 play, but they also only had 2 high danger chances the entire game, which is not great. It's a season low. I even looked at kind of the numbers on Natural Stat Trick, and the second line of, I think it's Zacha, Coyle, and Brazeau, they were only out there for 5 minutes at 5-on-5, and they had a 10-0 edge in shot attempts. Pretty good. Good to see, especially the second line that really hasn't generated a lot this year. Good to see some, sustained puck possession, all that. 0 high danger chances during that time. So it doesn't mean a whole lot if you're possessing the puck, if you're in the offensive zone, and you're not really testing the goalie at all. So, it's, again, it wasn't like it's anything new from what we've seen this year. It's just unfortunate that, as you said, it feels like the team's building something. They're on the right track. You even started last week, right? They have that overtime win over Toronto. You're feeling good. And then you have 2 steps back against Philly and Carolina. Same thing here. You feel like you're on the right track. You're building something. It's not perfect. It's not a 60-minute effort or anything like that, but a win's a win. And then this game, again, not a whole lot to write home about other than the stuff that we've already discussed time and time again already this year. Which is not fun.
No, it is. This is not fun. This is not shaping out to be a fun season. I mean, it's November 6th when we're recording, but it's sort of the same stuff where, they, as I said, they take a step forward, they take 2 steps back. Stolar's made some good saves, in tight, and that's all well and good. And the Bruins had some good cycle sequences, but you're right. It's a lot of perimeter stuff. It's a lot of, stuff up top where, and I think teams are picking up on this. Just pack it in. Pack it in against the Bruins. They can't get to the front of the net. They can't find ways to get there. They're not going to take a lot of shots from the outside. They're going to have a lot of shots blocked, which we continuously see. So when does that shift? I mean, we talk a lot about this team needs a spark. Again, I think was it Ty Anderson who tweeted they've been shut out 3 times in their last 8 games. Prior to that, it was 3 times in their last 175 games.
Yes.
That's egregious. So you just continue to see these problems, and then you get into the penalties, which was continuous. And yeah, sure, some of these you can debate, but a lot of them you can't. A lot of these are just straight up bad penalties, a lot of offensive zone penalties. And, again, whether or not they score on them, which they did, they scored their 3 goals on them. The 4th was an empty netter. But they also completely shift momentum. And we've seen this over and over and over again with this team this year, where it's stupid stick infractions from not moving your feet, or undisciplined play, or just that stuff. And, again, like, it's just an undisciplined team right now. And are they not focused? That's what I keep going back to with this group. And you saw it again on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and a lot of, just as you said, like, you can look at some of those plays and maybe they were ticky-tack. I think, like, was it the tripping call? Is that what they whistled coiled for? Like, that one, tough break there.
And that came after a brutal turnover from Nikita Zadorov.
Right, exactly. That's the thing, is like, all these things also are, the byproduct of just not being focused. Like, you look at, the Zadorov, I think it was the interference call, where it was like, Swayman just let the puck go. And it's like, what are you doing there? And then Zadorov gets interference on Pacioretty. They score a goal there. And then, you look at...
Pacioretty was taking everybody out. Pacioretty was like on a mission to take out every defenseman by the end of the first period.
It doesn't help that, you lose a guy like Andrew Peak coming out of this game as well. But, you look at just the lapses there and the lack of response. Like, the Swayman not taking care of the puck there leads to the Zadorov interference, leads to a power play goal. And then... look at David Pastrnak. We all looked at, how is he going to respond after the benching? Like, 2 minutes later, it takes a high stick. Like, what are you doing there, man? And again, when David Pastrnak's taking bad penalties like that and the Bruins are over 6 on the power play, that sure as hell is not the response you need from your best player, right? And it goes to like how tough it is to get any sort of groove with this team or feel good about what you're seeing in terms of steps forward, because you see these positive gains of the team buying in at 5-on-5 play and tighten things up on defense over the weekend. And then it's still undercut by the fact you're still taking penalties. You're still making things harder on yourself. You're still overtaxing your PK, which already isn't playing well, but it sure shit doesn't help them when they're out there 7 times in a game, right? And then you add on like David Pastrnak, and you got nothing from him in that game. It's concerning, right? Like, you need some breaks to go your way, but I say breaks not in terms of like it's all just puck luck or it's all shooting percentage, but you need like your guys to step up and carry you through this stretch. And we saw that time and time again over the last couple of years. I keep on going back to with a guy like Pastrnak, but the Bruins have had stretches early on in seasons where their overall supporting cast isn't carrying the weight offensively. They've been reliant on their power play, and a lot of it's been David Pastrnak kind of keeping them afloat as they kind of sort things out. You're not getting that to the same degree this year, and the results are kind of what they are as a result.
That's the thing. And I think with, Pastrnak, I'll give him credit. He did draw those 2 penalties at the end of the second. And of course, the Bruins really didn't do anything on those power plays, but it's just been a struggle to generate offense. And I think it's a similar thing, like when it comes to shots on net and high danger chances. And I say this every time we talk about this. We like high danger chances. We are a pro high danger chances podcast. But the reality is this roster is not skilled enough and talented and high end enough. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but they're not high enough to just dangle through defensemen and make these, globetrotter-like passes to set up high danger chances. And that's why you see these turnovers, because they're making that extra pass when you don't have to. Just get the puck to the net. And some of those high danger chances are going to be rebounds. And you have a big team. So you should be able to outmuscle guys in front of the other net and get to those loose pucks and jam those in. And I know it's easier said than done. It's more stylistic than that, but like, that should be the basis of it. And we saw that last year in the playoffs, and we continuously pointed it out. And we're seeing it now where they just are not getting these chances that they need to. And again, you saw that on Tuesday night, as you've seen to start the season. I want to get into a couple of questions, like one big picture Bruins question. And there was also a report about Trent Frederic that I thought was really interesting. Kind of came out of nowhere. Kevin Weeks, a little bit of a Kevin Weeks bomb. I was kind of disappointed Kevin Weeks didn't do like the whole, like breaking news. I guess it isn't breaking news, but was hoping it'd be in like a cool spot for it. Just turned out to be
like the M&M store, store at Times Square or something like that.
This is covered in M&Ms,
Yes.
like something flowing over him as he's giving Trent Frederic news. But first, quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks.
The leaves have fallen and the temperature is dropping, but you know what that means. Hockey season is finally here. And there's so many ways for you to get in on the action and win up to 100 times your cash with as little as 4 correct picks on Prize Picks, as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level on the ice, gridiron, court, and much more. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this hockey season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. There's really no shortage of ways to participate in Prize Picks, especially during hockey season. This week, I'm picking David Pastrnak for more than 0.5 goals and Nikita Kucherov for more than 1 assist. It's really that easy. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS on the Prize Picks app to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
So Tuesday was a big old disappointment for the Bruins. And, we've had a lot of these games so far. The Philly game, obviously Carolina, the Florida games, where it's just been sort of a miss and they haven't come out the way that, we think they can and that they should be able to. And, we're getting to about a month into the season, full month in. And I keep going back to, is this just sort of a mirage? Or are they really a middle of the road team? Is the drafting, is the lack of high end talent coming through the system, is that finally catching up to them? Is this the year? I mean, Max Jones also went on waivers on Tuesday. We forgot to mention that. That's another offseason signing. So my big question to you is: are the Bruins just an average team?
I'm not ready to lean that way yet, Evan. And that's not to say that I'm just looking at, I think the problem now is people look at that 19 Blues team as being like, oh, anyone can catch fire. You're not that far from being, I think, very concerned about this team is what it is. But I also think you look at just how bad they've been on the power play, how disjointed they've been, the penalties. There are things that can be cleaned up, I think, that should at least get you back into, maybe you're not S tier, an A tier team, but a team that should make the playoffs when you look at just the amount of talent that you have here. So, yeah, I view it as more of a fact that they're still really out of sorts. They need to get their act together. But I'm not ready to buy in them of this is what we should expect. I'm not expecting you've got 7 or 8 guys shooting 4%. I think there is going to be an uptick, right, in terms of what they can provide, but you need a lot more guys pulling on the rope. And again, that's not to say this team's going to go 41-5-2 the rest of down the stretch or something like that. But
they're going to win the president. They're going to find a way to win the President's Trophy.
But they should be much better than they are right now. And what their ceiling is, maybe it's not a legit contender, but again, maybe your team that just gets hot at the right time before the playoffs, and that's how you have to kind of view this as more of a third place in the Atlantic wild card kind of team. Maybe we have to shift the expectations there, but I still don't think this team is what it is right now, if that's the best way to put it.
I agree with you, and this is I do see the sentiment on Twitter, and I understand where people are coming from with nope, this team is mediocre. They're not going to be good. They're going to be near the middle, the bottom of the league. I don't see it. I don't see that. This roster is better. This roster should be better, and the circumstances surrounding this roster make me believe they should be better. I continue to go back to like Trent Frederic and Morgan Geekie. Morgan Geekie sat on Tuesday night in favor of Tyler Johnson. He's in a contract year. Trent Frederic's in a contract year. We'll get to in a second. Elias Lindholm is playing with better line mates than he played last year, and David Pastrnak is doing the same. And like, the defense should be better. I still think there's that potential there. I give them a little bit of wiggle room because it takes time to acclimate to new settings and new lines and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, every time I see a game like we saw Tuesday night, I go, should we brace for more of these throughout the year? And it's hard not to. It's hard not to think that. I'm not giving up on this roster yet. I'm not. And, again, if we're sitting here on December 6th and January 6th, whoops, we're sitting here on those. I am sorry. Yes. I am sorry. When we're sitting here on those days, and they're still in this position, then obviously it's a different case, and we have a much different situation on our hands. Right. But it's been a month. It has been 1 month. Yeah, that's where damn it. That's where I stand on that. Sorry, everybody. We're trying to avoid the election as much as humanly possible on this episode. So we're going to continue. So
we're going to lean into the Bruins just playing like crap instead.
Yeah, we're going to channel the anger into that. That'll be it. That's what we're doing. But I see it. And like, look, is Justin Brazeau a true top 6 winger? Probably not. I think we are in agreement that guys like him, Frederic, Geekie, are better, as third line guys. But at the same time, I think the Bruins acknowledge that they still need a top 6 forward. It just comes down to whether they'll be in the situation to get one.
I think it also, you look at it right. Like, even if Brazeau is not maybe a top 6 guy, you had a Bruins team that, the Bruins miss Jake DeBrusk and what he brings, speed and, his scoring ability. Jake DeBrusk leaving should not dismantle your entire offense, right? Like that is the thing. Like the Bruins were a very effective team last year with a lot of, middle 6 type of players like Danton Heinen and Brazeau and Frederic and Geekie and all these guys. And they all maybe had career years, and maybe that's what maybe that was the risk, as to maybe a lot of guys were just due for regressions, and you're kind of feeling the sting of that. But this wasn't a team that was, again, stacked all across the board up front last year. They should be better, especially when you have all these, again, like a Brazeau, a capable middle 6 guy that can and should chip in. You have a lot of guys like that you should be in a spot where you have enough guys pulling on the rope, and you're just getting none of that right now. So is that an indictment on the roster, or is it, the fact that you've got a lot of guys just misfiring right now? Maybe it's both, right? Maybe that's the way you kind of have to look at it.
Maybe it is. Before we get into Trent Frederic stuff, first quick word from our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like watching an NBA or NHL game live. The energy in the building, the sounds on the ice or the court, the memories you make with family, friends, and other fans. It's unmatched. And the coolest part is when strangers sitting around you become your best friends. You can make these memories with Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. When I use Game Time, I also love the flash deals, which help me get discounted prices on really good seats. Plus, who doesn't love seat views, which give a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy? So, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Now, back to the show. So on Tuesday afternoon, Kevin Weeks tweeted, in speaking to sources, several teams are interested in pending UFA, and then he put in parentheses, after this season, Trent Frederic. With his size, speed, toughness, character, and skill, he's drawing attention in the marketplace. Now, you pointed this out to me, and you're right in doing so. Is Kevin Weeks talking about teams being interested in him after the season, or is he saying that he will be a UFA after the season? Because the second part is true. He will be a UFA after the season. But are teams interested in him now? And again, Frederic has been a slow start this year. I talked about this. Diver brought this up to me on Pucks with Haggs. An idea of if you really wanted to shake things up and you either didn't fire the coach or you already had and you still weren't getting what you wanted, trade a roster piece. And for all the things Kevin Weeks said, I mean, obviously to start the year, Frederic has not lived up to it, but he does have size, he does have speed, he's got character, he's got some skill, and he's got some toughness. And the NHL's headed in that direction. You would think that a team would want that. Maybe you use him as a trade piece and you either do a player for player swap or you do like a Tanner Jeannot trade where you get a ton of picks in return, which again, I don't know. It's not the deadline. I don't know. I think Jeannot's numbers were maybe a little bit better than Frederic's at the time, if memory serves. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously if Weeks's tweet revolves around like his UFA status, that makes plenty of sense. I think he's going to be a pretty coveted guy in the market because of just how unique his skill set is, and whether he is a 20-25 goal scorer or more of just a 15 goal but can add some physicality, those kinds of things, teams will covet that. Be very curious to see what his actual next contract is going to be. But yeah, I think for the Bruins, it all comes down to just assessing, one, what's going to be the price for him in terms of how committed are you to re-upping him moving forward. You'd think they want to keep him as a key piece to this team because of that skill set, because of, barring this year, he's improved every year in terms of his scoring output. Again, before this year, he was regarded as a very, maybe underrated defensive forward too. Like a lot of D-zone stats, a lot of taxing minutes, and the Bruins have been on the right side of a pretty lopsided goal differential when he's been out there. So he's been a really useful piece for them. So if they're committed to re-signing him, like I don't think you're, realistically looking at moving him. If there's going to be like a sacrificial lamb, if the Bruins need to wake things up and shake things up on their roster, you imagine maybe it's someone who, is like a geeky or someone else like that that's moved as opposed to a guy like Frederic. But again, I think it's just going to come down to where the Bruins are, because if they are what they're playing like right now and it is middle of December and we're looking at this team and they're still treading water, then maybe you have to make some tough decisions as to whether you want to cut bait with a guy like Frederic or re-sign him. And then also just what his value is on the market. Because as you said, and I've seen a couple people mention the Jeannot trade, which I don't have his numbers from the year before he was traded. He had 14 points in 56 games. So like,
I thought he had so much more than that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And Nashville got Cal Foote, conditional first-round pick, second-round pick, and a third, fourth, and fifth-round pick. Like,
oh, yes. Yeah. Every time.
So,
I remember. That was to Washington, right?
To Nashville, right? Nashville, he was traded to the Lightning from the Predators.
Oh, yeah, not Washington.
Yeah.
Yes.
He hasn't done anything really since then, so it was a pretty bad trade. So Nashville, I'm sure, is happy they made that deal. But, I think it comes down to three things. One, what the Bruins value in Frederic as to how committed they are to keeping him, because they are in the driver's seat there. They can work on a deal during the season, where they are in the standings in a couple of months, and then just what the value is. Because even if maybe you're on the fence of like, all right, like maybe this isn't our year, but we think Frederic, he's going to be 27. He's still a key piece of this team. If some team's offering that much draft picks and you're looking for a way to, retool on the fly and you're able to get a first round pick or something like that, then maybe you assess the thing. There's a lot, I think, up in the air when it comes to Frederic. I think the Bruins want to keep him, but a lot can change in terms of just the value and especially where they are in just a couple of months.
Yeah, and I also think with like Frederic, sort of what I mentioned before is like those traits he has are ones you want, especially come the playoffs. You want a guy like that. I think the issue's just been consistency. That consistency hasn't been there. He had a really good season last year, same thing the year before. You're not quite getting that this year. But as you said, like if you can recoup a bunch of draft picks just out of Trent Frederic, like it's hard to say no to that. And obviously a lot of our listeners are going to say, you know, why do you trust the Bruins with picks? And I get that, but they have hit on some. And I also think they just haven't had many high ones. Like they just, you know, it's not like the Bruins have consistently had, you know, top 10 picks and whiffed. Like that hasn't been the case. You give them more picks, the higher the likelihood that you get some actual legit players. And again, we don't know what the market would be. Like we don't know yet. The Jeannot trade was like 2 years ago, I think. So again, like I don't want to trade Frederic, but as you said, team comes along with a bunch of draft picks and says you can have them, you know. And I think like a guy like Frederic has more trade value than Morgan Geekie by a lot. Yeah. Like I think that's also like, what are you getting for Morgan Geekie? I think that's the other part of it too. So yeah, I don't want to trade Frederic. I like what he brings, but you know, we'll see what ends up happening with that. Maybe more Kevin Weeks cryptic tweets will come through, and we'll see what he's talking about. So yeah, that's this episode. Kind of a very negative Bruins one. We had a very positive one on Monday with the 2 wins, and now we've got a bunch of negative Nellies talking about this Bruins team. So hopefully better days ahead. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can follow me over at theglobeandboston.com. We'll have covered every step of the way, whether it's recaps, features, columns, breakdowns, all that good stuff you can read over at BDC and the Boston Globe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.